Hey everyone, quick update. I got really sick at the beginning of November. I never tested positive for COVID, but all of my coworkers had COVID and I was down for like at least 10 days. But yeah, I got COVID. We had Thanksgiving here in the US, and then I was catching up on all my work and I got a third job. So I was like catching up on my work on my first two jobs and then learning the ropes on my third job. And basically, my motivation has just been shot. I haven't really been watching anything about writing. I haven't been reading. I haven't been writing myself. It's been down. And of course, I failed NaNoWriMo, which kind of that brought me down even more. I never really tried to take it too seriously, but once things got bad and I tried to write like a couple hundred words a day and I just, saw that word average that I had to write keep going up and up, I just gave up. And I think that's fine. It's okay to not hit your goal for something like that. But yeah, I'm back. My motivation is firing again, and I have a relevant book to review. Crazy. Um, since I was getting to the end of my little funk, I listened to The Lost Metal by Brandon Sanderson, his newest release. Sanderson is one of the best-selling fantasy authors in the world, and it's with good reason. He's written some of my favorite fantasy books out there, but that being said, his last few releases haven't quite been like up to masterclass that I come to expect from him. That ends here. Sanderson finishes Mistborn Era 2 with a bang. And it is, in my opinion, this series from, what is the first one called? Alloy of Law, all the way through to The Lost Metal. It's my second favorite series that he's written after Stormlight Archive. So, what did I like about it? What did I learn? And what makes it special? The list for any of these questions, it could be super long. I liked many things. I liked the characters. I liked politics, the intrigue, the mystery, the world building, of course, and of course the magic system. But what I'm gonna get into, what I want to talk about in this video is the relationship between divinity and mortals in The Lost Metal. It is far more direct than in other fantasy books, at least those that I've read. Typically share a common thread with our world, where the divine is like an inaccessible, vast, infinite, almost historical being in some sense. But in The Lost Metal, though God is described as vast and infinite, and in some cases all powerful, he regularly has conversations with characters. He accepts his limits. He sends his servants and is more of a character themselves or himself. I think it's himself, but maybe I'll just say themself for the rest of the video to be safe. He's more he's he's more of a they're more of a character themselves rather than a force. Um, and this is also a book where the main characters fight on the side of the god that everyone worships. Usually, in most books, I would say, like, the main crew is antagonistic, working to dethrone the god, right? Working to take them down, like they were in the first era of Mistborn. And I love this fresh twist on, divinity and fantasy. Um, it made the read, I don't know, fun in a way that you don't see often. What did I learn? As with any book, you learn a couple things. You learn many things reading, whether it's a trick to writing dialogue or a trick to, describing a scene. But one thing that I think will be very important for me going forward is it's not really a lesson that I realized I probably should have learned in an earlier book, but I didn't realize it until now because of the way the plot moved. And that was not to introduce the magic system or, any in this book it was a magic system, but it could be, any world building device in any book. Not to introduce it all at once. What I don't know, fall back to when I'm starting to write is I try to explain everything right off the bat. I know that I don't want to be info dumping, but I try to find ways to explain it to people, and that is probably not the right call. Um, Hiding these mysteries, both from the character and the reader, to uncover together can be an intriguing way to advance the plot. It can keep engagement high. And as Sanderson slowly reveals more and more about a kind of third magic system it's called hemalurgy. I mean, people who have read Mistborn before probably know what I'm talking about. And it's mentioned earlier in books, but it becomes much more prominent in this final book of Mistborn Era 2. And it just clicked for me when the characters were learning more and more about it. I was like, oh my God, like they didn't know anything about this in book one, and he didn't mention anything about it in book one, but there were hints there. And that's something that, while maybe difficult to master, it shouldn't be too hard to incorporate into writing, and it should actually make writing a story easier, I think, because there's less to worry about when you're just getting started. And I think it can give you more, I don't know, more excitement moving the story forward, and getting ready to reveal things to the character and to the reader. So that was a really fun discovery for me to make. And finally, what makes it special? My last question. There are a lot of things I can say, of course, but one thing that I think is true about all of Sanderson's books, they tend to have an underlying theme of hope, of forgiveness, especially self-forgiveness and change. They make you feel warm inside. They make you love the characters, even though they don't love themselves. And they make you want the characters to make the moral choice. And then the narrative will either give you their brilliant success or their terrible failure. And it'll be in a spectacular fashion. The Lost Metal does this beautifully. It brought me to tears with its climactic finish. Being able to maintain a narrative that feels realistic with the possibility of failure, even though you probably know in the back of your head failure is not going to happen, but it still seems like a legitimate possibility to the characters, and that hope, it makes the hope feel all the more authentic. It is stories like these that I want to create someday, and it felt good to read one after spending a few weeks down on my motivation. So I think I read this book at the perfect time. I was starting to come out of a slump a little bit, and I think it was an excellent book regardless of when I read it. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. Have a great one, everybody.